You should remember that storage is very important on the RHCSA exam. So you should make sure that you can do everything that has been asked in exercise 15. So the first question was to create a 1 gigabyte extended for logical partition. Basically, the exercise mentions GIB, which is GB byte, which is a multiple of 1024, but fdisk on RHEL 7 uses that entity as default to create partitions. Before doing anything, it's a good idea to do fdisk -L, which shows you all the available devices on your system. You can see that there is this SDA device, and this SDA device has this amount of sectors, but all sectors are used. And there's a brand new SDB device that doesn't contain anything. So I'm gonna use SDB to create these partitions. So that would be fdisk on dev SDB. And to create a new partition, I'm using N. It asks me what I want. As I've seen that all I need to create in the exercise are logical partitions, I am going to assign all available disk space to one big extended partition. I make that partition number 1 and I press enter, enter to consume all the available disk space. To confirm, I press P and we can see that of the total amount of sectors, everything is allocated to an extended partition. So right now I can start creating my logical partitions. I do that by typing N and L for logical, and then it asks for the first sector. So I accept the default for the first sector, and it needs to be 1 gigabyte, so I type +1 uppercase G to make it 1 gigabyte. Also in the exercise you have seen that you need to create 2 1 gigabyte logical partitions, so I'm repeating this. I do N again and L to create another logical partition. The first sector I can just accept the default, and I type +1 uppercase G again to create another 1 gigabyte partition. And next I can do a W. If you get any message that looks like an error message, the best thing you can do is reboot your system. Especially on the exam, because on the exam you want to make sure at a couple of times that your system is still capable of rebooting. So I had one logical partition that I needed to create an ext4 file system on, and I needed to mount this partition on /data. Let's do that on the dev SDB1 I've just created. So that would be mkfs .tab to show everything that is available. Let's make that an ext4 on dev SDB1. Now what is happening here? Well, this is a very common error. If we do an fdisk -L on dev SDB, you probably understand what's happening. My logical partition is where I want to create the file system on, and what I did, I tried to do it on the extended partition, and it told me, hey, I have 0 blocks available, I cannot do that for you. That is because an extended partition is like an empty box. What I did here was on purpose, because this is a very common error, and make sure you don't make this error during the exam. So let's try it again, but this time on dev SDB5, and whoop, the file system has been formatted. I'm getting in the etc fstab file, because it's still the easiest location to put new partitions in, and I'm telling etc fstab I have this SDA5 and I want to mount it on /data as an ext4 file system, defaults, mount options, and 1 and 2, because I want backup to be enabled and I want this file system to be file system checked during boot. The second part of the exercise was about the Lux encrypted partition. I know you're gonna like this part, but really it's not that complicated. So it is all a crypt setup, and before doing anything I need to do a Lux format. This is adding the encryption layer to my dev SDB6. And it warns me that it will overwrite data on dev SDB6. I know that, and to confirm that I know that, I have to type that in uppercase yes. Don't type lowercase because it won't understand what you want. Uppercase yes is what you need here. And then you need a password, and type that twice to confirm. Now look at that, isn't that annoying? The password is shorter than 9 characters. I tried to be smart here, but it doesn't really like it. Let's make that yes first, and a long password. Of course, it does make sense to demand a password that is long enough to be secure. But also, long passwords are an annoyance if you have to enter them while booting. Okay, the next step is to do crypt setup lux open on dev SDB6. And while opening it, we need a name. And the exercise didn't specify any name, so let's just call it secret. So there it goes, it asks me for the password. And then it is open. Now how can we see that? We can see that because in the dev mapper directory we now have a device with the name secret. There you go. And this is my Lux encrypted device. So on this device I can create my XFS file system, which would be mkfs.xfs on dev mapper secret. And now I can make sure that it will be mounted automatically. Let's first create the directory secret, and let's also create the directory data. Oh, it already existed. That's okay. So to mount the Lux encrypted partition from fstab, I need two things. I need to put it in fstab, and I need a crypt tab. Let's start with fstab. So what I'm doing here is not dev SCA6. This is also a very common error. You don't want to use SCA6 because SCA6 is the underlying device that you've used to add the encryption layer. You want dev mapper secret. And you want to mount that on /secret as an XFS with the defaults and 1.2 again. This isn't enough. You also need to create a file with the name etc crypt tab. And in etc crypt tab you specify that you want to create a device with the name secret, and that is based on the dev SDB6 device. And that is all. So when you reboot this machine, it should all automatically come up. So if all went well, while booting, your system will prompt for a password. The thing is that you don't really see it. You notice right here, please enter passphrase for disk blah blah on /secret. So let's enter the passphrase so that it can continue. All seems good now, and the system can continue to boot.